Hey friends, I'm Scott Hanselman. I hope that you subscribe to my channel, as well as leave me comments about the kinds of things that you'd like to learn. I've been doing computers and programming for about 30 years professionally, and about 40 years, if you don't count getting paid for it. I don't know everything, but I know a bunch of little stuff. I'm kind of a Swiss Army knife. If there's something that you want to learn or something I can help you learn, please let me know and I'll make a little video about it. This one here I thought would be fun if we talked about Git. Now there's lots of great Git tutorials and videos and entire classes, but I don't really like the way that they're expressed. There's a lot of confusing diagrams and branches, so I thought I would just do a Git basics for regular people. It does assume a few things, and let's just do this. Let's go to picture in picture and talk about some of the assumptions. So the first thing is, now I'm using Windows. You can certainly use a Mac if you want to. I'm using the Windows terminal. Your terminal or your command prompt might look a little bit different like this. That's fine. I recommend you get the Windows terminal. I also recommend that you go to my blog and you search for Windows Terminal Pretty Prompt. And what a pretty prompt means is it's a prompt that has information on it. I want to point out that it doesn't just have the path, but it's got some nice colors and it tells you information about Git that I'll show you. It shows your name, the name of your computer. This will take you just 5 or 10 minutes to set up. It'll add a lot to your Git experience. I would also recommend that you get Visual Studio Code. That's this application over here on the right. So I've got the Windows terminal here on the left, and I've got Visual Studio Code right here. I'm going to close them both and start over. I'm going to open up the Windows terminal. I'm using PowerShell for what I'm doing here. That's all explained in the post on a pretty prompt. I'm going to go to my D drive, and I have a folder called GitHub, and I have another folder called Learning Git. And you'll notice when I go in there, my pretty prompt immediately says, hey, main. What's main? You might see master. I like to use main. You might also see trunk. Those are your starter branch. It's like a family tree, and the main branch is the kind of the grandparent of the entire thing. And we'll see how branches work in just a little bit. In this folder, if I type dir, there's nothing. I can also type start dot, and I can open up Explorer, Windows Explorer, and see that there's nothing as well. We'll come back to that. I've got Visual Studio Code, so I'm going to type code dot, where dot is the current folder. Remember that we're in the folder called D, GitHub, Learning Git. When I say code dot, it's going to open up Visual Studio, and they might give me a little welcome. I'll close that, and you'll see here, nothing. Okay, and this is important because one of the things that Git does and does very well is it tries to lie to you. It lies to you to make your life better, make your life easier. Now, not all lies are bad. In this instance, what it's doing is it's hiding things. Why is this folder a Git repository, a place for my source control? If I go up one folder, you see how it doesn't say main? If I go back down a folder, it does say main. So there must be something special about this empty folder. Well, if I click in Windows Explorer on View and I click Hidden Items, there is a hidden folder right here called .git. Traditionally, if a folder has a dot in front of it, it means it's hidden from you. Now, if we open that up, we can see that there's a bunch of stuff in here. Don't touch any of this. You'll mess it up. This is basically all of the stuff that Git is hiding from you. It's your database of changes. It's your repository. It's the secret sauce that makes Git work. Never ever mess around in that folder. Just acknowledge that it's a friendly lie. I'm going to hide that and let it lie to me. Now, I'm going to go and I'm going to use the Windows keys, and I'm going to say Windows left arrow and then have Windows right arrow. So I've got on the right here my empty folder, and on the left, I'll clear my screen, my empty folder. So this is a way to think about my files where I have the graphical information on one side and I have the command line or the terminal version on the other side. Now, I can use any editor. I can use Visual Studio Code. I can use Notepad. I can use whatever makes me happy. And I could say something like Notepad test.txt. This is not Visual Studio Code. This is something super basic. And I'll say test.txt. And Notepad says, hey, I don't know what that is. I've never heard of that. And I'll say yes. And I'll say, this is a test. This is my first test. And I'll save it. And you can see it's right there. So there's a file. You can see when it was made. You can see that it's real and that it exists. Okay? I'll close that. And I'm just going to press enter right here. And you'll notice something interesting just happened. My prompt, my terminal, this custom pretty prompt that I asked you to set up, turned color. It's not green anymore. It's yellow. And it says, hey, one item has been added. No items have been changed. And nothing's been removed. Remember how we said that this is a magical folder? There's a hidden folder there. That .git folder noticed that something got added. But if I make a change to that file, another test, nothing really happened there. Didn't do anything. That's because we didn't tell Git about it. I can't go back to a previous version. I can't rewind time because nothing has changed. Okay? Nothing interesting has happened there other than the fact that Git noticed something there. So that's interesting. Right now, there's a modified repository with one file, but I haven't done anything. I haven't told Git about it. So let's see if we can tell Git what's going on. I can say git status. Now Git is the command that I'm typing here, and that was installed when I went to the Git website and I installed Git for my system. I have Windows. You might have Mac or Linux, and that's okay. And I'll say git status, and it says, hey, I'm on a branch called main or master or trunk. I don't have any commits. I haven't told you about anything, but I do have some files that no one tracked. I mean, they're there, but they're not being tracked. I'm not watching them for you. So there's really nothing added to commit. But just to remind you again, untracked files are present. So, hey, use git add to track those. Git add. Okay, git add. And I'm going to hit tab, git add. And I just hit the tab key on my keyboard. And that meant I didn't have to type test.txt. So, cool. What's happened here? It's very subtle, but our little prompt changed. It went from saying, hey, something important happened, to being, all right, something's modified. Notice that that's the same icon that we saw here, that modified icon. Nothing's modified, nothing's removed, one is added, but our repository has been modified. All right, let's do a git status again. Cool. We're on the branch. No commits yet. You still haven't really told me about anything, but you're setting up things to be committed. You put a file in there. This is called staging. You've put a file kind of ready to be staged, committed. But we've kind of set ourselves up for a commit, but we haven't actually done it yet. I could actually add another file, Notepad test2. Hey, this is another file. Notice on the right-hand side it just appeared. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Look at this. There's two of these things. What's going on? Well, here there's one file that we're ready to commit, and then there's this other one. Remember that warning? Hey, something's going on. There's another file that's kind of sitting around. If I say git status, we say, all right, I'm ready to go with this one, ready to tell everyone about it, commit it, put it in the database. But, there really is an untracked file here. Just want to let you know there's two files in this folder. One I know about and one I don't. So I'm going to add that one too. I'm going to say git add test2. There we go. So now I've got two files Cool, ready to go. So now let's commit them. I'm going to say git commit, and you have to tell the system what you think about that. You have to give it a message to acknowledge and give information about that commit. I'm going to batch these files up, and I'm going to say git commit, hey, this is my first 2 files. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. Cool. All right, well, 2 files are changed. There's a thing called an insertion. It's kind of about number of lines. Don't worry too much about that. But the fact is we added 2 files, and look, we're back to green again. So cool. That means that everything's cool. I have 2 files here. Okay. Now, what if I accidentally delete these files? Oops, they're gone. I'm going to hit enter. Like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What's going on? 2 files have disappeared. That's not good. Okay, well, I guess you meant to do that, right? You have some changes. I guess you want to stage them and let me know that you deleted these 2 files. So how can we do something about that? You want to add those and tell people about that you committed these files, you deleted them, you meant to remove them, or do you want to put them back? Well, shoot, that was an accident. I'm going to say git restore test.txt. Watch the right-hand side and git restore test2.txt. Look, they're back. They're back. I didn't mean to do that, and I'm back at a good place. Git status. All right, cool. That's nice. I can say git log, and I can see that there's a ledger, there's a log, there's an audit log, and I can go and see, look, Scott Hanselman, that's me, went and did something, and I went and I added some files one time, and that delete, we're just going to pretend that didn't even really happen. It's fine. We just put it back the way it was. Now, let's switch to Visual Studio Code. I'm going to use Visual Studio Code on the right rather than using Explorer, because Visual Studio Code will let me edit my files. So I can see the folder here, and I can make my changes at the same time. And I can look at their perspective on what's happening with Git. This little icon here says source control. You'll see source control referred to as a family tree or a series of branches. So that's what that icon means. So I'm going to worry about this icon and this icon. All right. I also want to point out down here the name of my branch. We'll go over that in a few minutes. So you're seeing the changes on the left in our terminal, and what's being reflected on the right-hand side in Visual Studio Code are kind of lined up together. So let's take a look at that. Let's make some changes. Hey, oops. Hey, I forgot a line. There we go. Cool. So look, on the right-hand side, Visual Studio Code is saying M. That means modified. You made a change. Cool. Hit enter over here. 1 file has been modified. That makes sense. Here is a line in another file. Save. Cool. Oh, look, 2 files have been modified. Hit enter over here in my terminal. In fact, 2 files have been modified. All right. Now, let's say git add, and I'm going to say dot. Remember before we said code dot to mean the current directory, or we said start dot to open up Explorer? I'll say add dot. And now I've staged. I've told Git that I modified 2 files, and I'm going to now go and commit them. Git commit. Made a few changes, added 2 lines. All right, cool. 2 files changed. That's great. These are no longer modified over here. Nothing's going on here. We'll come back to that in a second. I'm going to say git log. Cool. All right. So right now, the head, what we're doing here is we are pointing at the head And the head points to the most recent change here that says, and I think we can actually split this so we can see one file at the top and one file at the bottom. So I'm going to go and right click and split down. So here we go. We've got test at the top, test2 at the bottom. I've got the files over here. Everything's visible on the screen at the same time. All right. I'll even make a little bit of room so you can see that in case you have my head in the way. All right. Git log, we saw that. Okay. What if I needed this? This hash is a unique identifier that is the ID, the social security number, the unique number that represents this previous commit. So I can go and check that out. I could go back in time if I wanted to, and I could get a specific thing. I could say, let's just take a chunk of that, enough to be unique. What if I said git checkout? Okay. And this is a little weird. I just backed up in time. Look at this. Look on the right-hand side. Everything went back the way it was. We just went back in time. Okay. But when we did that, we are now detached. We can look around, but we're really not in the right time. We've gone back in time into an alternate universe. Okay. So then I'm going to go and say git checkout main, and I'm going to switch back. So look at the right-hand side. Watch those files. I'm going to do that again. Let's do that again. So we're here. We are on the current main. This is the state of affairs on the right-hand side. I'm going to say git log, and I'll say, look, I want to go back to 4 minutes ago. I have a unique ID that represents 4 minutes ago. Let's go back to then. Watch the right-hand side. I'm going to hit enter, and I want you to watch right here. 1. They're gone. They're changed. We went back in time. And we can mess around here if we wanted to, but I'm going to go ahead and go back to main. Okay? That's not usually a way that you want to work. What you'd like to do is not just go back in time. What you kind of want to do is split time in half. You want to branch. I'm working on this, but I have an idea. I'm going to practice. I'm going to just step over here into this parallel universe and see if this is a good universe for me to spend time in. So I'm going to say git checkout. And what I want to do is I want to make a new branch of my tree. Okay? So I'm not really checking something out as I'm making a new space. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can check out a new branch like this. We'll say I'm just testing. Okay? Or I can say make a new branch, call it testing, and then I can check out over there. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to say git checkout, and we'll say I'm just testing. All right. So we're on a branch now called testing. That's why it's so important to have a nice prompt. You see how friendly that is? It's really hard to learn Git if you can't visualize these things. All right. When we come back over here, I want to point out that Visual Studio Code has noticed that we're on testing. I did a bad job with my drawing right there. Okay. Visual Studio Code has noticed that as well. Let me close this real quick. I made a mess of myself. There we go. But we're in a world called testing, and I can say git log, and I can say that's cool. The head? Well, the head in testing and main are both the same, so it doesn't really matter. We're both looking at the same files. So I can say, oh, this is wrong. This is all wrong. New testing here, that's wrong. And let's say that this is also wrong. I'm going to test something else here. So I've made 2 major changes. And I'm going to even go so far as to say I want to remove test 2 because that was a bad idea. So we'll say git remove or git rm test 2. Oh, that's interesting. So it won't let me because I made changes to it. Well, I'm going to go ahead and say force. This happens sometimes. You want to be very careful. If you say -F to git, you're really saying, I mean it. I know what I'm doing. So it's saying, are you sure you want to delete that? You made some changes. I'm like, nah, I know what I'm doing. You better know what you're doing. But I will say I do. We'll pretend I know what I'm doing. Okay, look. It's deleted. It's warning me. It's not here anymore. Okay, so let's be aware of that. Okay. Now, let's go over here. Oops. And let's look at our changes. Get status. Okay, so in the world here, in the parallel universe of testing, we have removed a thing and we have changed a thing. All right. So I'm going to say cool, get add dot. So I have changed a thing and I have deleted a thing. Git commit. This is some testing. I think it's better. Cool. All right. So in this world, we have a file called test. Test2 is gone. I put my new testing in here. It's all wrong. And now we can say git log. And this is interesting. What's going on here? Well, the head where we are right now, this universe, the present time, is testing. There's another thing from earlier that's on main. That's where all my coworkers are doing their work. And then there's the first thing I did. So time went like this. And then I broke time off and headed in this direction. And I made a new parallel universe called testing. Now other people could continue in this direction and I might want to merge with their universe. I might want to merge with their universe. So I'm going to go and say git checkout main. Now watch on the right, watch here. A bunch of stuff's going to change when I hit enter. 1, 2, 3. All right. Remember, in this world, and we'll say git log to prove it, main is main. I can't even see that testing exists. Test2 is back. It never died. All right. And I can see that expressed. If I want to use other ways, I can go and see tools like Visual Studio that allow you to do some of these things on their own, where you can visualize changes. But I like to go and see those things here. But you notice if I go like this, I say git log. This is a graphical way or another way of seeing those changes. You see on the right, this log here, this area is the same as this. Let's go back over to testing to prove that. Git checkout testing, enter. All right. So we go over here. We're going to look at that log. There's our history. You see our history here? We could say all branches. You can see main and testing and how they relate to each other. So there's lots of great tools that will let you see this. Pick the one that makes you happy and helps you understand what's going on. But a lot of this is just time travel in different expressed ways. All right? Okay, cool. So let's go back and say git checkout main. There we go. We're back here in this new world. We've got test and test2. We can close our git history here. There's no changes here. Now, we talked about how main was doing its thing. Somewhere around the center, we went off here and we branched and we made a testing branch while main continued. How do we bring this back to the main line? How do I take that work that I was doing over in testing, okay, and I want to merge that branch in with the main line. I want to merge the branch in with master, or in my case, with main, okay? So what are we going to want to do here? I'm here in main, and I've got some changes elsewhere. I've got my changes over in testing. So I'm going to go and say git merge testing, okay? So I could go and do that, but I might want to make sure that I'm clear about what's going to happen and whether or not there's going to be a problem. There could be a conflict, and I can work those conflicts out. We can talk about those things. Or you can do what's called rebasing, which is a little more advanced that we might want to cover in another future video if you find this useful. Let's go and say git merge and see what happens. All right, look at this. We're going to update. I'm going to fast forward time. And I see that you made a couple of changes here, and you made a couple of deletions here, and you made 3 deletions there, and that file ended up disappearing. Okay, so look, now we're here on main. Let's go and take a look at that. And our log has main and testing is the same thing. So we took our changes from our little workspace, our little area over there, and we did a bunch of stuff. What's cool about this is you could make a little branch, git checkout B, new feature. I'm going to go and make a new feature. See, now we're on new feature. And I'm going to take this test here, and I'm just going to be silly, okay? I'm going to make a bunch of copies, make a whole wacky world here with a bunch of new files. So I've got like 5 files in here, okay? And you'll see that four new files. And I'm going to say git add, git commit -m, a bunch of work. Okay? Now I'm going to say git checkout main. Watch the right-hand side. Watch right above me right here. 1. They're gone. I'm going to say git checkout new feature. They're back. You could have huge amounts of work there. Changing branches is a whole parallel universe with a Mr. Spock has a beard, and it's just chaos. It's a whole other thing. Now, when you're over there in the parallel universe, making changes like test, let's say that I said, well, this is all right, not all wrong. So I'm changing line 1 of test, git add test, git commit. I got this right. All right. Now we'll go back over to mainland, to the world, where it's still wrong. And I'll go, this is all kind of okay. So 2 people are doing work. One's in new feature in that parallel universe. The other one happens to be on the same line in the same file. Okay. Git add. Oops. Git add dot. Git commit. I think I got it. Got it. All right. So in my world, I think I got it. Testing is another one. If I go over to git checkout new feature, that's another one. My branches are starting to get a little crazy. What's going on? There's a lot happening here. If I want to view that or visualize that, I can do that, remember, by looking at all branches. See all the different things that are going on, and you can see graphically in Visual Studio what's going on there, so that's interesting. But what's significant here is that 2 people have changed the same line on the same file. So that'll be a conflict at some point. Git checkout main, git merge, new feature. Conflict. I couldn't merge this automatically. Automatic merge failed. Can you fix these conflicts and figure that out for me? Now there's tools that'll do this work for you, but it's nice to know. Just like you might be using an Uber and that's how you get around town, or a bicycle. It's nice to just kind of know how a car works. It's nice to know how to drive a stick shift. You may never need to, but it's just nice. Little thing nice to know. So look what it did here. It made a file. It took my test.txt file and it said, well, somebody said this is kind of okay. Somebody else said this is all right. You see how they put these little left, like it all points to the left, and then this one all points to the other direction? Which one is it? Is it all right? Or is it all kind of okay? Well, what you could do is edit this. Let's make sure that we see what that file looks like, because I want to show you there's no magic here. Let's open it up in Notepad just to make the point. That's literally what's in the file, is a bunch of characters. And I could fix it. And I could say, that's what it's supposed to be, right? And then I commit that. That's how I fix my conflict, okay? That's one thing I could do. I'm not going to do that. Or in a tool like Visual Studio Code, it's like, well, I could accept the one that just came in, the incoming one from the new feature branch. I could accept the current one, the one I had before, and say I'm in charge. I could keep them both and work it out later. Or I could go and maybe start a session and share my screen with somebody else and go and figure these things out. When I compare the changes side by side, I can see, well, one person said it's kind of okay and another person said it's kind of all right. I need to decide that. But I have to fix this conflict. You can see that it will show up as a conflict down here. This needs you to work it out. So what are we going to do? Okay, let's accept the incoming change and we'll say it's all right. I'm going to hit save. We'll go back over to here. And I'm going to say get status. And I'll say, all right. We brought these files in from new feature. That was fine. There was no issue there. But we didn't mark this as a resolution. We didn't say that our conflict is fixed. So I'm going to go and say get add. Cool. Get status. All right. Now we've got a bunch of stuff. I'm going to say get commit. Brought in the new work from new feature. All right, cool. And now I'm back on the main line. New features out there doing its thing. There's a parallel universe over there. It's not the head. Main is the head. Testing we did 10 minutes ago. That's chilling out there as well. We can go and again visualize these things by looking at Visual Studio. Okay, and then looking at it like this. Look at that. Look at this. Parallel universe came back together at the end there, which is very, very nice. And then I can continue my work. But again, at any moment, if I needed to go, I could go back and I could cherry pick. I could say, well, I did some really good work. I just want Evil Spock with his goatee to bring him into our universe, or I just want that one line. There's all kinds of more advanced, fun things that you can do, but the root issue, the fundamental thing that's interesting about Git that I want you to understand is you can't lose your work if you pay attention. You can almost always go back in time. Don't be afraid. There's a lot of great tools out there that'll help you. Just commit often. You notice how I committed often with a bunch of dumb, silly messages. I can squash those commits if I wanted to make one really cool, well-phrased message. In this case, of course, it was always me, but if I had a team, we could also push and pull from a central location like GitHub. Maybe I'll do that in the next video. So I hope this gives you a sense of Git, how I like to think about Git, and you find this useful. This was all shot in one no edit video, but there you go, Git in about 33 minutes. Hopefully that was useful. If it was, please leave me a comment. If it sucks, go to another channel, but hopefully you'll subscribe to this one. Thank you.